everybody for coming today and welcome. We're not going to start formally yet, but now's the time to get yourself a cup of coffee, get some water. Welcome to our online community. Want to make sure that we recognize that today we're in today's Lease meeting. We also have the online community welcomed in. So for everybody here, get a cup of coffee, get some water, sit at a table that has linen. Okay, well, I learned it. It's a big word, I know. It's kind of pretty impressive. It's better than tablecloth. Okay, so, but sit down, make sure we're with somebody so that you have somebody to talk to as we're going through this, and we'll start the formal program in about 8 minutes. Again, just for everybody to know, welcome to those that are joining online. But take about 5 minutes, get yourself a cup of coffee, get some water, get comfortable, and we'll start in about 5 minutes. That's still Wendell. I'll warn Kenny ahead of time, I might have screwed him up with this timer. I don't know if it resets by itself. Plug it back in. No, that's real time. So it comes on before they get here and warms up. It takes 15 minutes to warm up the water before it can start making it. They make 4 or 5 hot, so it's all good. I'm telling you. Sorry. Apparently I didn't shower. Or I didn't shower enough. I don't know what to say. I don't know. It's all good. Yeah, nothing. Nobody. It must be my bad side. Nobody wants to look this way. I see 2 men there. I see 2 men in the front too. Come on. They may have been dragged there by women, but that's not the point. So if you need another piece of paper, just kind of, just know it's over there.
Yep, I got white pants on.
Yeah,
so
that
gotta
too.
be careful.
There you go. I know better than to wear white. It's just Wendell and Grace out there, right? So we can start.
Here comes Kevin.
Okay. Oh, we will wait for Kevin. This is awesome. It's good.
And John.
Is John coming too? Is it? No, he's late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cute how they kind of separately.
Yeah, that's right.
They're
Yeah,
not
they-
really that far apart in time.
No. They always do. I don't know.
I always say that we're all weird in our own
Yeah.
way.
There you go.
My-
Yep.
When my parents lived with us for
Yep.
6 months, it was like,
All right, let's go ahead and get started. First, I want to welcome everybody. I want to we're here to talk about Lease, and we'll get into that in a little bit. First, I wanted to thank everybody from the LMBUs here. I see Greg, and I see Andrew, and I see Alan, and I see Pastor Jeff, and I see Ron. I was getting there, don't worry. I know Ron's here, but he's way in the front here. I can't miss Ron. And of course, we see Pastor Jeff, and we have staff people here. So we have Andy, again, Pastor Andy. We have Steve. We have the amazing Grace back in the back there, So, and of course, Dave Cramp. And a lot of these people you'll see more as we go on. Again, welcome, and I want to make sure that we acknowledge and welcome the people online. We said as we went through this that there was 2 groups as we were having these meetings when we did all the work that we did before with our strategic work with core values and SWOT and everything else. We said that we kind of sort of overlooked a couple of groups, and those 2 groups were the online family and the families. So it wasn't open to those people. We just didn't make it happen. We didn't facilitate it. And this time we're very purposefully trying to make sure that we have sessions that are accessible to our online family and then to families with children, so that we can make sure that we hear from everybody. As we said, reminding of the question, right? Led by the Holy Spirit, how can Island Lutheran best position itself to be used by our Lord to transform as many lives as possible to Christ? Again, we can't do it by ourselves. This is so important that we have these meetings and listen and hear how the Holy Spirit talks to each of you. Because the Spirit uses us all in individual ways, and we don't always hear the same thing, but it sure comes from the same place. And so it's important that we listen to all and take everything in and help us figure out how we're going down this path. So let's start with a prayer. Let us pray. Father, thank you for allowing us to gather in your name as we consider your charge. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations. Today, we're taking some time to consider one of the many steps in our discipleship process. Allow us to be willing to speak openly, to listen intently, and to continue to gather information to hear and then ultimately do your will. We know you speak to all of us and that you use each of us in ways that please you. Guide us through the future challenges, and let us be reminded that you always provide all that we need to live your way. Today, we ask that you are with each of us as we grow in our own discipleship and know that thy will be done. Amen. So let's talk a little bit about the construct for today, okay? We broke this up into 3 sections. The first section is what we're calling receive. So we will be receiving. We'll give you a couple of questions, allow some interaction, allow some talk, and then we'll gather the responses to those questions as we move forward. After that, we'll take a little bit of a break, and then we'll get into the second piece, and that second part is sharing. And this is where we're going to share information with you. So, we keep telling you that there's work going on. There really is. And so today, we're going to share a lot of what we've been doing and what we have found out so that you can start feeling the same reality that we're feeling. So we're going to listen, we're going to share, and then what we're going to do is we're going to deploy. And we're going to deploy in the Spirit. And we're going to find out what it is that we all can do to help along this path and to continue to support each other. So right now, what I'm going to do, and the last thing is the parking lot, which is a piece of paper up here. For those of you who don't know about the parking lot construct, the parking lot is, if we start, these meetings are focused on lease. So if we start going down a rabbit hole about land, we're going to stop. We're going to capture the point so we give it to the land team who's going to run the next series of meetings, or we give it to the worship team or whatever we kind of rabbit hole we go down that isn't associated to lease, we'll put it over here and we'll make sure that information gets shared so that we don't lose it. Because it's all going to be important, but just not important today. So today we're going to focus on lease. And normally Grace does that, but she's way back there. So I don't know. On a very great point, Mary. There are a couple ladies who don't understand linen, I guess. So. Okay, so right now I'm going to ask Adrian to come up and give us our first question and start us in our discussions.
All right, just adjust this a little bit. Okay. Down, down, down. Oh, okay. There we go. Okay. So in the beginning, this is going to feel a little redundant, but kind of work with us because as we share and develop the activity, you might be surprised some of the feedback that we get. We've been surprised at some of the feedback that we've heard and also kind of amazed at the ideas that have come forward. So the first thing we'd like you to do at your linen tables is to talk with the folks at your table and to think about why. Why would we want to consider leasing property? Just very simply, why? Why would we consider that?
And just a reminder for those online, if you have comments or opinions or thoughts that you want to share, there were 2 numbers that were in that announcement about the online. Go ahead and either text them or call those people, and they'll be happy to have a discussion and represent your voice here. All right, let's go ahead and start. Let's start sharing out loud here. The way we'll do this is I'll facilitate, and Adrian's going to just scribe for us, and she'll write up some of our answers to why. So, what do we got? Who wants to share first? Who wants to? Hey, we're sharing with everyone now, Jeff, not just at your table. Momentum. Okay. Go ahead, Greg. Presence. Letting people know who we are as Christians. Provide opportunity for those that don't want to cross the bridge. Oh, the bridge again. It's all good. Yep, to provide opportunity to, oh, you're not, okay, yep. What else? Don't worry, she keeps up really, really good. It may seem she's behind, but she's not. She's right where she needs to be. What else we got?
Get things started, just maybe momentum, without a big commitment up front.
Okay, get things started without the big commitment.
Could provide opportunity to identify where to purchase.
Okay, could provide some opportunity and learn something about where we might want to purchase. Yes, Andrew.
Provide more opportunity for volunteers who are unable to access the island church.
Okay. So opportunity to volunteer, right? And because there's another location now, if you can't make it to the island, that might be okay because we'd be able to do it from out there. What else do we got?
Begin to identify a core who would
Okay, identify the core of what is going to become that mainland presence, that mainland family. Good, good. So, and, like, if you start looking at all that, right, that core is probably pretty important, right? All these things start fitting into this group of people that starts getting established out there that, and then we're not talking about land today, but that group that forms that core with Lease is ultimately going to be that same group that becomes the core for the land. So when there is a new building, now you're not building this whole build, you're not going through a process to build and then say, well, now we'll build it and they will come. That's not really how it works, right? We're going to build a core and then we're going to build a building around that core, right? So that was great, right? And if you look at it, all these things fit into understanding that build the core. Okay, so let's go on to our next question.
So once we're there, what is our priority? What will we do in this space? What types of activities will we find ourselves engaging in once we have this space? Just talk about popcorn, all the different things that you see as priorities.
I was going to put up that other piece of paper, but if I write the question, then I'll start talking about that. So,
Yep, me too.
so like,
I was-
no,
yep.
just I'll be patient.
Right, it's hard to be patient.
It is, because you're like, I can just put it up there, I'm doing nothing right now.
I know.
You know, just put it up there, and they're like, no, you'll just distract the process.
We have to like live in the moment.
Yep, just read the room. I've been.
You have,
Yeah, there's a family that lives out there that was in our Jewish free. They hosted the second. We hosted the first one. They hosted the second, so we all got to see Margarita.
okay.
It's way out there.
It is.
It's out there, but it's different than any other community here. The homes are nice. It's just like Sun City. It's just like Hilton had Plantation to me. You know, it has more amenities than like a plantation does. You know, so it actually does have a store or restaurants and stuff like that. Where like our plantation has, you know, a place to go to dinner, but it's really a golf course.
Right.
So.
Country club.
Yeah.
Well, it's a different era,
Yeah.
you know,
Yep.
a different era. I loved living in Hilton Head Plantation. Wendell wanted us to have the chance to be on the water, and we knew we couldn't do that in Hilton Head.
No way.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
way.
yeah. Oh, I hear you. We're very happy with our, you know, we've always said, we look back all the time, all the houses we've had, we never thought we'd have a house like that. So we never, you know, we grew up in very different situations, you know, and neither one of our parents made a lot of money, you know, and so we never thought that we'd be anything other than the day-to-day, week-to-week kind of growing up, but we were very fortunate and things worked out, so.
And also, probably a lot of planning. You know. My parents grew up in the Depression, so
Right,
we went,
Yep, my grandmother was at, she taught us a lot about, you know, if you listen to her, which I did, my brother did, my sister didn't, you know, but, so two of us were able to save and understand what that meant, and And there was my sister.
There's always somebody.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, let's still go ahead and start sharing out. No, not yet? Okay. Hey, I am nothing if not flexible. Okay, I'll give you 1 minute.
Well, and we, I was really lucky. We grew up in Oakhurst, which is Monmouth County.
Yeah, I know. I was just saying, I know that.
And
Oakhurst Academy and all kinds of, yeah, I know where you are.
so I really thought my parents grew up middle class.
Right.
And it wasn't until we were adults that they really let us understand that that was such a big leap for my mom and dad.
They're not now. Just you be patient. Yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and get started then. All right, let's talk about what. What is it that we're going to do? Worship. Bible study. Learn the community. A place for other community groups to meet. We'll find out, right? So we will serve the community.
In fact, we introduce ourselves to the schools and the community.
Introduce ourselves, one, to the schools, but also just to the community, right?
Yes.
So I'm adding words to you, but you help me. It's okay. Grow a youth ministry.
Worship could be not necessarily Sunday morning.
Okay. Worship outside of Sunday morning. That actually opens up, when you start thinking about it, and we'll talk more about that later, but that opens up a lot of possibilities when we start saying worship doesn't have to be Sunday morning. Vacation Bible School. There you go. Chris wants to drive to the mainland for that.
Recreation for youth.
Recreation for youth. Come on, you took the extra time. What else you got?
Well, it might need to be office space.
Office space. That's a very good one, right? You start thinking about it, you can't necessarily, you need the admin support too, right? It might, there's some resources that are shared and some that'll be specific to out there. And so how that gets deployed or done, it might be. I hope I didn't answer that wrong, Jeff. I stepped right into Jeff and Dave's space without really getting their permission. Good. What else we got?
Could it be 2 different locations?
2 different locations, right? When we start talking about admin space, right? Or space to have Bible study versus space to have worship. They could be 2 different locations. Don't have to be the same location. We just want to fulfill the what. What else? Oh, don't worry, we got lots of paper. Lots of paper. Yeah, she scribbles around the edges and everything. It just becomes a mess. What else?
How about serve the community?
Serve the community, right? Serve the community, okay?
So I'm assuming that knowing and sharing your joy and salvation through Jesus Christ is going to be first and foremost in all of these.
Absolutely. That's a great point, Kevin. No. Well, exactly. You don't hear it, but you kind of see it, right? Because you can go through and say, okay, maintaining mission. Okay, that's great. Because you can see, Kevin, as we go through down, you can say, okay, this is knowing, this is sharing, this is knowing, sharing, So, but it's good. What you just did was great for us, right? Let's remember what we're trying to do here. Let's remember our mission statement. Yes?
Not just maintain it, if Mary would allow, but live it.
Live it. okay? We've been talking a lot, live the mission. We have been talking a lot over the last year about what it means to be a disciple, right, in Christ. This is living our mission, is being a disciple.
And I just suggest going even farther than that, building it in to each of these, purposely building it into everything that we do.
Okay, purposefully building and acknowledging the discipleship aspects of knowing and sharing the joy of salvation through Jesus in all that we do.
I'm trying.
What else?
As well as youth ministry, we need to also consider the senior.
Elder care, elder ministry. Great point, Betty. So this is getting to be quite a list, isn't it? This is a lot to do from the lease space. And in the end, what's got to happen? We're going to build, yep, but that's a different meeting. But what about this?
But that's the end, the end goal.
Absolutely, Mary. But in the end, this list, we're going to have to prioritize, aren't we? We can't do it all at one time. It'd be great if we could, but we know we can't because we all have physical limits. We have resource limits. So in the end, this list is going to have to be prioritized. And I want you to start thinking about that. And I'm not going to steal Jeff's thunder, but in the end, we think that we do know the priority. And we'll let you know what we're thinking and where we think we're starting. And I say we think we're starting, it's really kind of a light way of saying it. We kind of know where we're starting. So we're going to share some of that as we move along here and sharing, what becomes our priority in this. Go ahead, Joyce. You're itching. I can see it.
I was wondering where it comes in when we decide, like, do we need 7 days a week, like mornings, evenings?
That's a great point. Look at that. So now we're talking about the fact that you can lease space part-time or full-time. And now when we start coupling that with this idea of multiple spaces, maybe there's some space that's part-time and some space that's full-time and they're not in the same place. Andy, what do you got, bud?
It was brought at this table, in-person worship and not streaming.
Okay.
So in-person preaching, in-person music, not streaming.
Okay,
like
in
places
person.
do.
Anything else? All right, who's got a guess to what the last question is? Start thinking about that because Adrian's going to come up and introduce the last question.
Come on, y'all are stealing my thunder. I have 3 words. Think about what we're describing as where. We all think we have the idea, and it was kind of interesting when we put people's thoughts together, how folks answered that question. So please take a few minutes at your table and online to think about what where means relative to a lease space.
Am I allowed to just open their mind on the where? It doesn't necessarily mean, if I'm able to,
Sure.
Adrian?
Yes.
Just where may not just be a location, it might be what type of building we would. So think about that as well. Like, are we talking about, you finish it. So where?
Be creative.
This is where y'all talk. There you go. That's what's good, right? I mean, it's good to keep people talking like this. You know, like I said, in the end, we need them to respond with build a core for worship and Bible study, and then we'll expand the community service. But we start. The where is interesting because they're, if you listen to a lot of the conversation, the where they're talking about is build, not lease, and there is a difference.
True.
So, okay, are we ready to share? Sure, I had got a sure.
Yeah.
All right. So, where are we going to focus this lease space? Okay. Remember, we're talking the where here. We're not talking about where to build. We're talking about where to lease. And those are different things potentially.
Should it be a permanent location or a setup tear down?
Okay, full-time versus part-time. Do we have a setup and tear down, or do we have a location that is ours all the time? Great question, and a big consideration, of course. What else?
Maybe Buckwalter or West.
Buckwalter and west of Buckwalter for the location. Great. Because the bottom line is, and Jeff's going to say this later, but if we did something at Moss Creek, how many people would stop at Moss Creek? Right? Yeah, so that makes no sense. So Buckwalter and west.
Well, it depends who's preaching.
Nice. Wow. Wait, Jeff's not here to hear that. That was just wrong. Nice. Go ahead, Andy. I saw you up.
Well, to go right along with what Alan just said, when I started this a year ago, my mind was bluffing. And here, I've been involved in this. The more I've been involved in this and be involved in healthcare that's evolving out there, I go further and further, even west. I just don't know. What we discussed at the table is, where do you draw the line? Where's the need? I'm very much aware the need is in Beaufort. Where is the future planning? Well, this is all, the future is being driven by the port. Third busiest port now in America, second busiest port on the East Coast. They didn't choose to expand I-95 just from our exit to the bridge for no reason. It's all being driven. So those areas of real expansion and real need are Hardyville and Ridgeland and Beaufort. But here's what I can't rationalize on my own mind. Where is too far? We're trying to serve the people. We're trying to serve the people. So a question is not only how far, a question that I can't answer in my own mind is, how far is too far?
Okay, so how far is too far? And actually, you brought up a whole bunch of things I'm going to try to summarize here, right? So number one is, and I'm going to try to bring us back to, this is lease, okay? This is about building a core that's going to end up in the building and focusing on worship and Bible study, right? So when we start putting that nutshell in, now you're talking about our footprint or our area of concern that Andrew described from Beaufort, right? He mentioned Beaufort, he mentioned Savannah, and Hilton Head. That's a pretty big area, right? And remember, multi-site doesn't necessarily stop at one additional site. So that may be some of what you're talking about, Andrew, is the fact that we may need not just one step forward, but maybe a step after that, and a step after that to cover. There's a lot of ground here, right? So we need to think about that as we are, but, you know, and think about the fact that development is happening, as Andrew said, development is happening all over the place now, right? So there's a lot of development going on, right? And that's both opportunity and concern. Kevin.
I'm just stuck on something. I feel like we are putting the cart before the horse on trying to answer some of these questions, because I keep going back to, who is our target audience, or plural, audiences? That should be driving, in my opinion, where, why, what.
Okay. Jeff, you want to?
I'm going to address that in the...
And remember, and we are, and remember what we said though, right? As we go through here, we'll keep this in mind for lease. This is lease. Build the core, worship and Bible study, right? So, and you're right, Kevin, there's a lot of need out there. There's a lot of stuff about demographics we don't necessarily know. And all this stuff we'll start learning as we move forward. Lauren.
I know we have a lot of ideas of what we think in our minds, but doesn't the district in Synod have church planting specialists that we could draw on? Okay.
Yes.
I'm done.
The short answer is the Synod does have resources to help us, and we are in contact with the Synod now on a very regular basis and in multiple parts of the Synod. So it's not just like there's one person who we're talking to. There's multiple different organizations within the Synod for all these multiple different things. Because again, simultaneous approach, right? We're talking about lease and land, so we might be talking to different people when we're talking about buying land than we are for lease. Mary?
Okay, you keep mentioning including Savannah, which is an entirely different district. Or is the district going to carve Savannah out and pull it into Southeastern, or what?
Yeah, the district is a district, but
There is that little enclave in Delaware that's part of our district. So I'm assuming that the district will
Well-
carve Savannah out?
I'll address that, yeah.
okay.
Before we put it on the park.
Yeah, let's put that into the parking lot. But we will talk about it. But I mean, that's something, the area that we've talked about, Savannah to Beaufort to Hilton Head, that's been established as our area of concern for a long time now. So, but we'll put it up there and go from there. Andy?
In terms of type of place, this table I heard school, office space.
Potentially look at schools, look
and
at
then
office space.
Someone else actually named an empty Big Lots by a Lowe's.
Okay, empty big lots.
As type.
So, okay, stop, time out. No bad ideas. We're not here to hammer any ideas right now. Okay, we're gonna listen and we'll process. So I get the fact that there's some that might think that the Big Lots retail space that's empty might not work. That doesn't make it a bad idea. We need to listen to everybody and be respectful for each other, and that's okay. So, we said we're looking west of Buckwalter. Well, clearly that doesn't fit. That doesn't make it. That's one thing that we talked about. There's other things we're going to talk about. So let's just try to make sure we'll be all right. So, but what I heard come out of that is we should look at schools. We should look at retail space. We should look at empty commercial space, right? The kind of spaces that we would look for. That's good information. That specific one, maybe not, but that doesn't make it a bad idea and a bad thought that can help drive us. Wendell, what do you got?
You lease to learn.
Okay, you lease to learn. So the space that we get, we're going to look at leasing to learn. By definition, it's a temporary space. How temporary? Well, again, part-time versus full-time. We talked about that a little bit. So do we want to set up and tear down every week? Well, maybe, depends on the space. Do we want some full-time space for admin and for Bible study that we can do during the week? And then whenever we conduct worship, maybe just have that part-time space that we have somebody come in and set up for us or is available for us? So what else do we got?
Movie theaters.
Movie theaters.
The other thing we talked about was we really have to be cognizant of handicap.
Okay, God, make sure it's handicapped accessible, right? So we got some considerations that start coming into play when we look at space. One of them is handicap access. Parking in general, right? So now we're starting to also talk about some of the considerations that go with all these different types of spaces that may or may not be available because they may not work for us because they're location bad or different, or they may not work for us because they don't have enough parking or they don't have handicapped access because, what else?
I don't know whether, some of the neighborhoods have clubhouses.
Okay, Nate, so in some of the developments, in some of the areas, there's clubhouses, right? So we can look.
I need everyone to raise their hand. I need everyone to speak into.
Okay, so if Steve is asking us to slow down a bit so he can get the mic to whoever's speaking so that we can, I've been repeating most things for the online, but this way we don't have to repeat it.
How about gymnasium?
How about raise your hand and get the microphone? I thought we just talked about this, Alan.
I thought I said it loudly enough. I did it.
They can't hear you in China.
Gymnasium.
Gymnasiums. Okay. We're keeping our online community engaged too, thank you. What else? Go ahead, Mary.
USCB.
USCB, maybe out to the university, look for space. This is what I'm saying. So, we continue to get new ideas.
Theater.
Yep, we got the theater already.
They got that?
Yep. Wait. Steve's running.
How about Hilton Head Christian Academy?
How about Hilton Head Christian Academy?
Don't they
We'll
have
talk
space?
about that later.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely, we'll talk about that later. You know, something that came up while in one of the other meetings, but I haven't heard anybody talk about yet. How about a tent? A tent. How about a double wide getting put up on space that we might get? I'm just saying, when you start opening and thinking outside the box, there's other ideas. I'm not saying they'll work, but it's great to actually think outside that box. Think outside the norm.
The Bluffton Oyster Company Park there, they have a lot of services there.
Okay. Bluffton Oyster Company Park something. Yeah. Bluffton and Oyster. That I got. So, and so the important thing, though, is to keep getting these ideas. So Steve's walking, I'll keep talking. Keep getting these ideas because, as I mentioned, there's a team that runs down these ideas. And they like getting these ideas. So they'll go talk, and they'll see, well, how does this fit in? What could be done there? Bob, what do you got, bud?
Bob, did we mention other churches?
Other churches? Well, there's an idea. Bob, that's a great idea, right? Maybe there's a church that we can do. We already said that maybe we don't have the service Sunday morning. Well, maybe there's a church out there that's willing to let us lease their space and come in there for service. And maybe it's not Sunday morning, but maybe that's okay. Tom?
How about company like Palmetto Electric out there? Their big center.
Palmetto Electric, the center out there. Technical College of the Low Country.
Alan, can I add, you mentioned a double wide, just for some people's past history here. At one time, where the playground is over there, we had a double wide, Lease double wide that we used for our Sunday school classrooms for many years till this was built.
See, so. that's the point, right? So depending on how things go, we don't know how these two paths are going to necessarily work and interact together. Maybe the land comes together quicker than we think, and maybe putting a double wide or putting some kind of temporary structure out there allows us to get some admin space and or Bible study space on that location. We don't know, but the best thing to do is talk about it, plant the seed, and we investigate all possibilities as we move forward. Wendell.
Catholic High School.
Catholic High School.
John Paul.
Right? So, and we mentioned schools, but now we're starting to get some eaches, some specific ones that may be for consideration. Anything else? Again, in the end, all these things have to start coming together for us, right? We can't talk about where without understanding why. We can't do any of it without understanding what we're doing. So the why we're doing it, build a core, what we're going to do, worship, Bible study, things that churches do. We can grow into community service, etc. Where, 278, 170, that's a great center point, west of Buckwalter. Let's start looking, we got to get some reality into behind these three questions. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to take about an 8-minute break. We'll come back at 10:05 on our clock up there. So let's go ahead and take a break, and then we'll come back and we'll get Pastor Jeff and the team up here to talk about some reality. What's been done? What are they finding already? Thank you, everybody. All right, if I can ask people to make their way back to seats. All right, Wendell, I'm going to send you out as my guard dog, my sheep dog. Bring the sheep back. Bring the sheep back. It's too bad. I just saw Kevin leave.
Oh, I just talked to her. It's all good. With her on Monday morning.
All right, because I want
She's
this.
gonna watch it. Oh, I told her she's gonna watch it.
This, yeah, good, good. All right. And for the online community, I'm going to commit Jeff to putting this online for you. That there's a document that's being handed out, so he'll share it as an afterthought. That can be, it's a point-in-time document, so I just want to say that to, just so we all recognize it. Now I mentioned the fact that there's been a lot of work done. There's a lot of stuff ongoing. So I'll ask Jeff and his ministry team, folks, to come up and start talking to us a little bit about what's been going on. What's reality really look like?
Hello, everybody. So if I could, just give you the opportunity. Undoubtedly, you've looked at the sheet. Those that are online, as Alan said, we'll be sending it out to you. This document is actually, as of 2 days ago, it is no longer accurate, and that's because things are moving that quickly. And so we did not want to get something out that was inaccurate and also outdated. So we'll be sending something out this week, but it'll continue to be a part of this ongoing communication. So I'm going to take us through the first part of it, and we're really blessed at this church. We have such strong leadership at all levels, ministry teams, the staff, and the board. And I want to ask you to help me thank, obviously Alan and Adrian are part of one team among other teams that are working hard. Would you help me thank God for them? Put your hands together. After I'm finished, I'm going to have Dave come up, and Dave's a perfect example of that leadership I spoke of, because Dave has been working on this for months, frankly, months and months, and he's been blessed to have, since Andy arrived, Andy as a sidekick, and the two of them continue even as of like yesterday. So we continue to get information. But what I would like you to do is then, if you have questions, there's sheets on your table. We're going to answer all questions, and that we can. If we can't answer them today, we'll get the answers to you. But I'd like to take you back, if I could, to 1985. So that's 40 years ago. And I'd like you, maybe just some of us can probably figure out where we were in 1985. I can. It was our first year of marriage. We had just finished. And we were in the seminary. Maybe you know where you were. Now here's my question for you. In 1985, there was a group of people, in particular led by a pastor, doing exactly what we're doing. Now, I've asked this every time. We've had over 50 people involved in the conversations, almost 60 so far. And so I want to just find out, how many of you were in those conversations in 1985? Anybody here? So Greg says they're 86, which is pretty close to 85. Now, I bring that to you. Is anybody else? So far, we have like about 3 families that go all the way back. Now, I bring that to you because we have so many more now, but I want to take you back to 1985. And the best I can do is share what I know. Hopefully the information is, I've been checking it with Greg a little bit, but there was a retired pastor who loved this island, and he noticed that there was no Lutheran Missouri Synod presence here. And he and his wife believed that there should be, and that there were people that needed to know the Lord. And so in 1985, actually, he consulted with the district and the larger church body. And Pastor Naus started to pull together some folks. I just found out that, do you know where the first place they met? Anybody guess? Where did they meet, Kathy? They met in Barb English's house. So there they did. Barb English's house, she comes, still comes to our church, in our church family. Her son's name is Mike Kelka, and so you might know Mike. Now, I say that to you because shortly in the next year, they moved from there to where? Anybody know? Port Royal Clubhouse. Anybody go back to the Port Royal Clubhouse? All right, that's where the besties, because it was right by the bars, from what I was told. Sunday school, of course. Sunday school was in the bar for the children. And so here we have this precedent set in 1985, 1986. And, you know, not this part of the building, but if you were to go through these doors right over there, when was the first? Well, the land was purchased, the first site was built on, and they started their first service. Anybody know? Greg knows. When was it, Greg? Easter Sunday of 1992 was the first worship service. That was Steve's first service. Anybody else go back to the first service? Now, by now you should start to think how few were a part of this beginning. And God is giving us so many people here today that have been blessed by the work of those people. We would not have a Lutheran Church Missouri Synod on the island accessible for the people on the mainland if it hadn't been for their work. That's the bottom line. And the truth be told, it's really not their work, it's the Lord's work, right? And this is how the Lord works. And I bring this to you because, quite frankly, I do know this. I did a little research. Pastor Naus, well, you know, he had a little experience. He came here as a church planter. He had actually planted a church in the St. Louis area that became very prominent, very significant in ministry. And that church and the church body celebrated and partnered with the beginnings of this church. Now, I'd share that with you. Why? Well, because quite frankly, go to 2020, and in January of 2020, when the Lord had moved my heart and our family's heart to come down here, I didn't know exactly when all this was going to take place, but I was told in the interview process. In fact, those that were on the interview team interviewed me specifically because of my background. And so you need to understand, this isn't my first rodeo, just like it wasn't his. In fact, just for the record, when I was a young man in my 20s, I was a part of a mission start in California, and congregation was developed, started with Mary and I and a 6-month-old Molly. And after 5 years, when they were ready to organize, I took a call, and their founding pastor is still a dear friend of mine, Mike Lang. Well, he's now district president. And went from there to I did get the privilege of going back and preaching at the first building, which was cool. From there, went to Tracy, California, a congregation that wanted to start a school. And within a few years, we had not only made the steps to start a school, we actually built the building and then built a junior high and then a senior center. And all those happened. And by the way, that school now has 300 to 400 students, praise God, and a large early childhood center. Went from there to West Bend. And again, the Lord had put on their heart to start an early childhood center, child care, and that was blessed by the Lord and happened And the Early Childhood Center 3-year plan was filled up within 3 months, almost 200 kids in the Early Childhood Center. And now they are going through the process of their second phase of lots of building. Now, why do I say all this? Because I think at the end of the day, just like Pastor Naus, this isn't my first rodeo. More importantly, though, this isn't God's first rodeo. And the Lord knew exactly what the Lord was doing long before any of us were around here. And I would suggest to you that the leadership has done well in saying, led by the Holy Spirit. How can Island Lutheran Church best position itself to reach as many lives for Christ and transform them? Now, I say that because we've got to understand why we're doing this and what would be the approach specifically with Lease. And so if you look at this in front of you, this purpose is so critical, I'm going to actually ask you to say it with me out loud. It starts with the word create. 1, 2, 3. Create the core for the long-term site. Okay, for those that are online, create the core for the long-term site. Let's say it again. Create the core for the long-term site. Now, if Bruce Rosenthal was here, he was here at the very first one. Bruce and I actually have been having this conversation for 5 years. In fact, in the parking lot, right over here at Dockside, he talked to me about this when I had the call in hand. And we've been praying and working on this, and he and I have completely flipped our thinking. See, our thinking was, you know what, let's get into the community and serve, and then out of that, we will see if a core is identified. That is no longer my thinking, and it's no longer the thinking of our board. Rather, our thinking is the best way to create a core is to recognize what God has already done, and we'll talk about that now. See, the reality is, for the last 5 years, I have listened to this comment, and I'd like you to finish it. Pastor Jeff, I've been inviting people. I invite my friends. I invite my neighbors. And some of them actually have Lutheran background. But you know it. You tell me it. They do not want to make the drive. And by the way, having now gone that direction for the first 2 sessions, it was hilarious. I asked people, hey, how long did you take? Oh, I took 2 minutes to get here. Anybody beat 2 miles? You know, these people were all over it, just like some of you were joking about how easy it was to get here this morning. And what I have to remind you about is these are the heroes. For 5 years and way beyond that, we now have almost 2/3 of our people and all of our young families, basically, across that bridge. And Kevin will tell you, Andy will tell you, families especially, are not going to drive across that bridge and take a 25, 30, 40-minute drive. And yet, these people have said, we want to be able to invite our friends to know the Lord and have a worship service that is consistent with our church body. And so, maybe the question comes back to what is our footprint? That's been, as was said by Alan, our footprint has been declared years ago. Our footprint goes from north of Savannah to Beaufort to Hilton Head. Why is that? Because we've had people from those distances, and we'll continue to consider that part of our footprint. Does that mean that we would cross into the Florida-Georgia district to do a site? I don't know. We'd have to talk with leadership about that. But what we do know now is that people drive distances and have driven distances to come and be a part of Island Lutheran Church on the island. So we surely know once we get something going over on the mainland, they will be a part of it. So our purpose, one more time, would you read it out loud? Create the core for the long-time site. Well, quite frankly, how do you create the core? I say to the people, like the Grotelutions, like all of you, but my goodness, the 50 some, almost 60 people that were there last week, you've been wanting to invite your friends. And now you're going to get to. Because we're going to have a worship site over there, and this will start to help us think about. Churches start worship in lots of different ways. In fact, I've been a part of these type of different sites, startups. Some churches will send out, back in the old days, postcards throughout the entire community. Launch of a new church on this date, come. Churches are doing it with social media now. We're not doing that. I'll tell you straight up, we're not doing that. Why are we not doing that? Because actually, we want the people that are part of the ministry over there to know exactly their role, our role. And that is to get the word out to friends. I'm not saying we won't publicize it, but the goal is to build the core that we already have. And we'll talk about that in just a moment. So that informs worship. There are churches that will start sites that have completely different style of worship than they have at their main campus. And I say main campus tongue in cheek. I personally don't think this will be the main campus 15 years from now, but that's irrelevant. What I will tell you is that, we're going to do something that, reaches out to this people group, and we're going to do something completely different. No, we are not. We are going to do what we do best. We are going to do what you all know, what you love, what you've already been inviting your friends. That's why we've been growing. Now, as time goes on, when we start introducing other worship services, absolutely. You add on and find worship services that'll reach out to different people groups. But to start, we want to get a core that's going to be, hey, this is the core that is going to be a part of this site that we're building on. So here's the question for you. At your table, real fast, we don't have much time. How many people are going to show up for the first worship service? How many people are going to show up? Give a range, 0 to 50, 50 to 100, 100 to 150, 150 to 200. How many? Have at it. I'm going to schlep a little coffee, and I'll be right back to you. All right, we don't have time. We've got to just give us some numbers here. Let's throw them out. What is this table? What are the ranges that came at this table? 100 to 150 has been thrown out. How many say probably 100 to 150? Put your hand up in there. All right, that's a pretty good sizable group. Think 100 to 150. Any other numbers? 75 to 125. Anybody say that one? 75 to 125. All right. All right. How about here? Would you guys, anything else? 50 to 100 here. Anybody else say 50 to 100? All right. Anybody else? What'd you guys come up with? God bless you. About the same that's been said? All right. So who knows? Who knows? God knows. The Lord knows exactly how many will start there, but it's actually a trick question. Having been down this road, remember I told you this is not my first rodeo? That isn't the right question to ask. The right question to ask is, how many will be in worship 6 months in? Now think about that. Now, I tell you that because 6 months in, Pastor Zimmerman, this is not his first rodeo, he and I have been talking about this. We've been praying about it. And I can tell you right now, the statistics show a couple of things. Generally speaking, what will happen is we'll have, like, everybody from the church on the island will go out there to check them out, give some encouragement, go, go, go. And then what happens? It starts to drop off, right? And then it starts to grow, God willing. Now, I share that with you. We're not the only ones doing this. In fact, Eric Yankee from the the Wisconsin Synod, he was called here out of seminary, and they started worship 6 years ago. It's real important for you to hear this. This is not about the May River Lutheran Church. This is about pretty much statistics that have been shown. So their service started with 30 to 40 people, and now 6 years later, what is their attendance? Yeah, about 40 to 50 people. And by the way, they are looking for land right now. They are hoping to build right now. But I can tell you, and Bob Swearer, again, who's been in our church body, knows these statistics. Generally speaking, doesn't matter what church body it is. You take the first worship service, multiply it by 10, and that's the ceiling. So if it's 30 to 40, that's 300 to 400. If it's 100 people, that's 1,000. Now, I share that with you. These are general statistics that go across all of United States worship. So what does this mean for us? Well, it means, as you look at your sheet, our approach. Our approach isn't only going to be about doing what we do now, it's also going to be about staging. And what does staging mean? Staging means that what we're doing at the beginning may have to be adapted. We will have to be flexible. And we have to be flexible because at the end of the day, our goal is ultimately to simultaneously be leasing and buying land. And already lots of good input has come in. It's been very, very helpful, some neat ideas. But staging means we have to deal with one of the things that came up over here. I think it was you, Tom, who said, hey, what about if we only use something on Sundays versus 7 days a week? Big difference. Mr. Grant will help you to see the difference. There is a profound difference in the amount that is required during this, I'm going to say, 3 to 4 year period. It's about from what my conversation with the pastor from Cornerstone and Bluffton, which by the way should tell you, we're talking. I'm talking to pastors. I'm talking to pastors on the island here, at St. Luke's, at Central, at the Baptist Church, at the Presbyterian Church, over on the mainland. We're already talking. They're helping us. They're actually identifying spaces for us to check out. But the reality is we're probably looking at 3 to 4 years from the time we buy to the time we have our opening worship service. So what's going to go on during that 3 to 4 years? Staging, right? We might start out in a gymnasium. We might start out in a theater. We might move into a 7-day a week. We've got it every day. Undoubtedly, some of you are saying, but what about service to the community? Please understand, service to the community is absolutely critical. But like here, service to the community comes from the people that are gathering. See, if you look at our current membership that comes from the island, I can look around right here. Positions of influence, positions of volunteerism, and service right here among you on this island. See, what we want to do is build a core. And among that core will be people who actually don't drive over the island to do their, over that bridge to do their service. But actually they are positioned in the Bluffton, Okatee, Beaufort, this whole area, and that's where they volunteer. And as they volunteer, they're going to be carriers of the message of knowing and sharing the joy of salvation. Are you starting to track with this, how this works? You build the core, worship and Bible study. As the core is built, service opportunities happen. My guess is years 2 and 3 will be different than year 1. And ultimately, that will actually help as we talk about what the campus will look like. I don't want to get ahead of myself and sure don't want to open your brain because we need to keep talking lease. But the fact of the matter is, you got to come to these land conversations. Who knows what type of ministries in the community service will be taking place at that permanent site. But for now, we need to be thinking about lease. One of the creative ideas that has come up, which Alan brought up, is, hey, what if we were to actually forego going into one of these places, what if we were to buy the land and put up a temporary, someone has already started doing work, not on our staff, about what other churches have done, about putting up temporary buildings and how you could use that for long-term. All the ideas are plentiful. Who knows what's going to happen? The Lord. Who knows what's going to happen? The Lord. Who knows what's going to happen? The Lord. It's really important for us to be able to trust this to the Lord. But the Lord has given us people who have experience. The Lord has given us people who are passionate about this. So I'm not going to tell you, I'll let you talk to Paul about what that first worship service and 6 months will look like. You ought to talk to him. Let's just say none of your numbers are out of line, but it's on the higher end of the numbers that you talked about today. And so, again, we just have to walk before we run, and then we run according to the Lord's leading, right? So considerations. I think it must have been a German who did this. So why, as I say that, what's the first consideration? Price. I mean, seriously, I don't know who wrote this, but it must have been a German because, price. And I will say to you, Mr. Grant was very happy that it's first consideration, right, Dave? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And he is German. And oh, by the way, I am German too, but I have a little bit of Irish in me, a little bit of Scotch, and a little bit of Indian, American Indian. And so, quite candidly, Dave and I, we work very closely together. And on this one, we're both probably going to end up leaving it to the Lord, but the bottom line is, you've got to know that I am going to be the person who says, let's see what we could do. And Dave is going to say, well, what does it cost? I've already, in my mind, set aside $1 million for the lease, which, by the way, is about $250,000 a year, plus $100,000 for 3 years, and plus $100,000 for setup or tenant improvements. And you're saying, Pastor Jeff, what is going on in your head? Well, we'll get to that in a little bit. So, price is a consideration. Size is a consideration. We're looking for properties that are in the 5 to 10,000 range. I can say 5 because actually our mission, first worship services, were in a space of 5,000 square feet. It was a commercial space, but we outgrew it. So then we moved into an industrial park of 10,000 square feet. Is 10,000 square feet better than 5,000 square feet? Depends. Maybe. Because there are other considerations. But I can tell you that was in California and Wisconsin. When we started a satellite, we started it in 5,000 square feet. And by the way, speaking to these considerations, if you notice, one of them was brought up, and that's parking. Parking is not an easy nut to crack in this region. Trying to find a place that has parking that actually can accommodate on Sundays, we just are working through a variety of considerations. And location. We started a satellite in West Bend. We found out it was way too close. It was called St. John's on Main Street. It was so cool. And it really did help the congregation as the culture was getting younger. But it was so close, people started saying, oh, I can go just a little further and get to I want my children baptized the mother church, and all these things. So when we talk about location, I naively said, oh, well, how about, right there, I don't know, by Moss Creek. Ha, ha, ha. If it's at Moss Creek, what are people going to do? They're just going to drive across the bridge. They make it that far. So we're looking, whoever said the 170, 278 triangle or cross, that's actually been identified over and over again, and the board identified that as well. We're looking probably west of Buckwalter, but we don't know. Part of it's going to depend on what the Lord opens up. And so what we've been doing up till now is talking about, again, our purpose, our approach, our considerations. Dave's going to write your questions down. We're going to grab them at the end. We're going to answer any question you have. But first, Dave's going to give us a little bit of a progress update. And I already told you, this sheet is passé. Things have happened since then. We're no longer at 20. We're probably, you'll tell them. All right.
You gonna raise that for me? Thank you. I appreciate that. Good morning. Yeah, so if you take this sheet and when we talk about progress to date, instead of 20, we have 23 now that we've looked at. When I say we, I'm talking about Pastor Andy and myself. And when I say look at it, we visit some, we talk to them, some of them on the phone, we, working with a realtor, and we also are looking at the, basically the general area as well as on the websites that are available for leasing. Those sites, the 23, really some of the things that have been set up here, we've looked at a funeral home, we've looked at schools, we've looked at the Burnt Church Distillery, we've, so we're, we wanted to be near the bar, but, and no, so, there's a lot of different, we looked at storefronts, we also, the Big Lots has come to our attention. So these are specific areas that we're looking at generally. When I say storefronts, it's more commercial buildings. Some are already up, others are under construction. So the pricing, as we talk about cost, what this costs, we're in the 35 to 45 square foot on an annual basis. So if you multiply the 5,000 or the 10,000, you'll know where we are. I would use the number on a monthly, on an annual basis, you're going to be at the $150,000 to $200,000 range, roughly, if you go in this direction. That direction would be more the commercial type buildings. So if you go to a school or a Boys and Girls Club, which we looked at as well, that's going to be a different ballgame and quite a bit lower from what we've seen. If you go to a Burnt Church, which just came in, they wanted $10,000 a Sunday. So they. But all alcohol was included. Yeah. So that's an outlier that they're a business and they wanted us to basically take their whole building for that day. So as far as Jeff has mentioned it, but we're looking at a little bit of a 20-minute or 30-minute drive outside of that I-70, 278 area. We, as things come to us, we look at them, and we've got a lot of ideas from these meetings, but we're really, we're really on the, we're looking at it, but we've submitted 3 applications for use of various buildings. One of them has been denied, which was the Boys and Girls Club in Bluffton. We've got 2 churches, 2 Methodist churches that are so far saying one wants to meet with us next Wednesday, which we'll do. And then, and that'll be after a meeting that we have with the Bluffton High School, who's also amenable to talking further. The Bluffton Middle School is already being used by a church, and that ends, Andy, about October. So since they're amenable already, that could be an opportunity for us if they're ready to go in October. As far as the other 2 churches, the Methodists, we don't know. We haven't. They haven't said no. They just want to meet with us a little bit further. So we have, and we're looking. If we go this direction, we're looking at worship space, and then two rooms, and focusing on Sunday at this point in time when we're talking to them instead of 7 days a week. So As far as if you look at the financials on your sheet, and there's no how up there about how we're going to do this. And I'm going to, yeah, can I address it too? Oh. Okay. So if you look at our financials, you really, you see where we are. We're a little bit behind on our budget as far as it comes to our offerings. Having said that, we're ahead of last year, so we're close. As far as the expenses, we're in great shape when it comes to expenses versus our budget, but you have to realize that, you know, we've had some things happen here. Pastor Kevin, when he was on his leave, was paid not his full salary. So, you know, we've had some savings, and he'll be coming back in September. And then down below the charts, you see the mainland online ministry fund balance. So we have that $518,000 in place. We don't have a mortgage here. And this is a line specifically for mainland expansion. Having said that, Pastor Andy said compensation comes out of that number, and other areas that when we need money for expansion, we take it out of this fund. We still are spending money on this building, and you know that last year we had a hurricane that went through and we had some roof damage. This year we repaired that for roughly $92,000. We just had another air handling unit go out, so we're spending $14,000 on that. So we do need to spend money to keep this building going, but that's a separate fund. So we're focusing the money on that. So, you know, how do we move forward? How do we get money to afford? Jeff, I think, threw out a $2.5 million number. And you can see the cost of the lease, if it's going to be $150,000 to $200,000 a year. How can we approach that? So, you know, we need a capital campaign, and Jeff can talk a little bit about that further. We also have been talking and working, as you know, some of you, with the Legacy Fund, the LCMS Foundation. So that would be a source of income. We are working with Lutheran Church, LCEF, and so there's a possibility that we can partner with them. Also potentially get grants, not Dave Grant, but grants. But there's, so, and then we have a mortgage. You know, we might have to have a mortgage. So there's mechanisms in place as we move forward to fund the lease and then eventually continue and fund the land. So I know you're going to have some questions. If you would write those down, Jeff will finish up and then be happy to answer those questions.
So as I said, Dave's a perfect example of the just beautiful leadership here. Dave's also an example of one of the steps we've taken at this church, and that is the step of giving volunteers a staff position. So when Dave asked, you know, do I need to be at all these meetings, and do I have to stand up and sit down and, you know, do all of this, we said, we'll pay you overtime. We'll give you double what we're paying you regularly. Now, for those of you that are trying to put all that together, we are blessed with a man who is volunteering just like you do in the community. He's volunteering somewhere to the tune of 20 to 25 hours every week here. So will you personally help me thank him for all of his work? We are so blessed with leaders from within our whole church body. I was at a gathering, and it was a PowerPoint presentation by our district president, And I noticed they were talking about new mission starts, and they were listing them from all the way up to Delaware down here. We're the southernmost. And you know, it said the Bluffton, Okatee area, Beaufort County, Island Lutheran Church. I was like, yeah, nice. I was like, dear district president, how about if you and I make sure before you put our name on something that I know you're doing that. Now, I share that with you because they have been working with us. In fact, I continue to be in conversation not only with the district president, but those that are experts to help us with some of these strategic conversations. They are also expecting for us to be able to receive grants. But I'll be real clear, they couldn't match our Dave grant. But beyond that, the truth be told, the grants that come from the church body are going to be grants that are going to be more programmatic, resource-oriented, and staffing. They will help seed staffing, and they will help seed programs that reach into a new community. Someone said ESL before, online church. All these things are things, you know, that could be available for grants. And they're expecting us to go through the application process. But in terms of our partnership, it also goes beyond that with Lutheran Church Extension Fund. They've already, Dave Grant for his class, he already has a preliminary analysis of what these people look like over there, what their interests are. And the Lutheran Church Extension Fund partners with churches to identify what our community needs. So we already are in that. We'll continue to be doing that. But again, our focus now is on the lease is to create the core. And so as we create the core, we know who the core is going to be. It's going to be the friends of the people that have told me, Pastor, in 5 years, I won't be able to come across the bridge anymore. You know, I can't even tell you how many people I've heard that from. So these are the people that are going to be a part of helping us to get going. But beyond the Lutheran Church Extension Fund giving us demographic study, they are also a premier loaning agency. And we will be looking to them to partner with us as a loaning agency. And so clearly it's a gift from God that we no longer have a mortgage. Thank you, Lord, for his work here. I want to take you back to 1985 and then 1992. And then this extension was built in the early 2000s. This church has been led by the Lord, by the Spirit, and we're in a great place. We'll likely have to get a loan. And we're already getting ideas of what that loan will look like. I have already kind of started thinking out, what's the big nut? What's the big nut to lease, buy land, and get the first phase going? The first phase is about a 10,000 square foot building on a property. You have to come to hear about that later, but likely it's not going to be up in Hampton. Ha, ha, ha. Do you know where Hampton is? It's likely going to be in Beaufort County or in that area. So again, you can come to those meetings. But what is the nut to get the land, the first phase, and the lease? We already know. We've already had engineers working on some of this stuff. We already have a pretty good idea of what it's going to be. But you're going to have to come to those meetings. That means our partners know. That means they're walking with us. So Dave talked about a campaign. It's going to be a ministry expansion campaign. We're already in it. We're already in the quiet phase of that campaign. We've got a meeting with September 8th with the Lutheran Church Extension Fund representative. The board has set aside a team that's working with the staff. We're doing that now. How do people give to how many of you have been through a church's capital campaign or some organizations? Put your hand up. Golly, most everybody in this room. So for those of you that haven't, these are gifts that come in beyond people's regular offering. These are gifts that have a 3-year time frame. So they're commitments that can be made and given over 3 years. They generally come out of 2 pockets. How does Pastor Jeff know this? Because Pastor Jeff has led 7 campaigns in 37 years in the ministry. 7. This will be number 8. Lord, lead. So the money comes out of two pockets. The one pocket is called operations. That's when you say, hey, we're going to cut back. I don't think we're going to, maybe we're going to drop a membership for 3 years, or we're going to give up our Starbucks, or we're going to cruise that we want to go on. It comes out of these things. Basically, where we trim for 3 years, suck it up because we believe in the mission. The other pocket is what? Investments. In fact, this dovetails very nicely with what we're doing with the foundation, with legacy gifts. I've already been talking to families. We already have legacy gifts in the pipeline. And Dr. Denninger is coming back again at the first week of September. Praise the Lord. I have no doubt over the next 25 years, the Lord is going to have way more resources than we could ever imagine to be doing great things. But people who are giving legacy gifts might say, hey, I'm gonna take a little bit out of that pile now and give it to this campaign. Does that make sense to people? In that, you need lead gifts, but if you were in discipleship hour, and I'll say it again, and we got to keep saying it, all gifts matter. Every person counts. And so I've got plenty of stories I can tell you about some pretty cool gifts that came from teenagers and young people and people that were just poor as church mice. And they were beautiful. They're the widow's mite. All gifts matter. Every person counts. And so we are in that. It will become public January. By November, we'll have a pretty good idea what it's going to look like in terms of how much we would expect to be able to raise, the Lord's going to raise up. But ultimately, the Lord knows. So we said we were going to entertain questions, and we've got a few, and so we're going to deal with them. Dave, if I need you, will there one piggy bank for both sites or separate? Great question. The answer actually to that is we already have 2 sites. We are developing a third, and based upon the feedback we've gotten, we probably are going to, over the next 10 years, have somewhere 4 or 5 sites. So remember, a church started in Barbara English's house. Who's to say we're not going to start a site out in Beaufort in a house? So the fact of the matter is, one church, many sites. Say it with me. One church, many sites. So that means that there will be a central place where the resources, and it was brought up before, that's not only talking about financial resources. That means staffing. That means leadership development, all the programmatic stuff. There will be general people that will move around to different sites, and then there will be site-specific staff, to include, someone came up over here, we have every intention of having live preaching at our sites. We're not going to be live streaming to the site. Would initial funding be to cover the lease only, or go right into raising for the building also? We'll know a lot more about that in about 4 months. But my goodness, based upon the initial feedback we're getting from Lutheran Church Extension Fund and from some of the conversations, I've already received 2 lead gifts. We're not going to get into any more specifics, but I'd say we're well on our way to talking about not only leasing, but buying land and maybe building. How will we decide on the 2 names for our third site, 3-sided congregation? Led by the Holy Spirit. Could you say it with me? Led by the Holy Spirit. I can tell you that is going to be it is a very good question. It's been asked. Yeah, it's one of yours. All right. It's been asked numerous times, and I can tell you right now, over the next couple of months, I've already done it on a trial run. I have 3 churches that I know all the pastors that have multiple sites, and I could give you a dozen. But these 3 I know intimately. And I will be able to help you to see how churches wrestle with that issue too. Next one. Considerations, terms of lease, length, insurance, triple net, etc. Those are great comments. Not question, but that's a great comment. And all those things are being dealt with, right, Mr. Grant? Yes. So in terms of when we talk about price, we're talking about all those things that fall under it. So those are great. Are there any other questions from around the room that we can maybe help with along the way? The Catholics, no. The Low Country, Christian Academy, no. The Lutheran Church, no. The Presbyterian Church, no. The Cross, no. We've talked them all. Dave and Andy have been beating the bushes, but these are great. You've got to bring more. As I told you, people are bringing up site options, but that gives you a little bit of perspective of the hard work these people are going about right now already. Any other questions? All right, well, I think we'll turn it back to you there, sir.
Great. Actually, I'm gonna ask Adrian to come up, and Adrian will come up and deploy us and tell us how we can help. What should we be doing? What should we be considering now?
Thank you, Alan. So this is where each of us takes the baton and we move our mission forward. The first thing that we need to do is pray. We all need to be prayerful. We need to keep our mission in each of our prayers. We need to be thoughtful and open-minded and let the Lord speak to us as we reflect and think about the next steps. So we need to pray individually, we need to pray as a church body, and we need to pray in groups with our friends. And let's do that right now. Let's just pray very briefly. Please, God, help us put all the information that we've learned today forward. Help us to find a path that will meet the needs of our congregants and move your word forward. Please guide us and lead us. Amen. The next thing that we need you to do is to be positive ambassadors. We all live in this community. We travel back and forth every day, mainland, island, mainland, island. We're volunteering, we're working, we're serving our community in a multitude of ways. So we need you to be a positive ambassador and to really ask questions. Come to the table with an open mind, engage people in conversation. Look at what we learned today. And each of us came to this meeting with a base of information, and then that information has been enlarged. Through the course of the meetings that we've all engaged in, every time we leave the room, we leave it with a little bit more to think about, a little bit more to wrestle with, a little bit more that we can creatively contribute. So we need each of you to be a positive ambassador. And the final thing that we ask you to do is to make connections. All those 23 leads did not come from one person. It came from people throughout our congregation that were being open-minded and thinking with an open heart, and then passed that information to Dave and to Andy. So we need you. If you see something, say something. If you think you have a question, it's probably a great question. Make those connections and bring them forward. All right, any other comments? Okay, turn back over to Alan.
Okay, so again, asking to stay engaged, continue to communicate, right? If you have ideas, if you know somebody, hey, I know somebody at this place that might talk to us, share those contacts, okay? And we'll continue to drive them through and continue to look at them. At the same time, I'm going to make a commitment here for the LMB and for the staff, and that is that we have to make sure that we keep you informed as well. You know, we're sharing a lot of information that a lot of you are just hearing for the first time. And once we start getting a base out there, we need to make sure that we keep talking with you as well and sharing with you, you know, what we've discovered, what we've identified, what we've accomplished, and how that path looks forward. So now I'm going to ask Jeff to come up and close us out. We're very close to on schedule here. We're just maybe a minute or two behind. So I'll ask Jeff to close us out.
Actually, Adrian led us in prayer. Just will you, just in the quiet, just for a moment, be in prayer. There are people who need Jesus. Lord, remember us in your kingdom and teach us to pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Hey, thanks so much for being here. We'll clean up, and I know I'm going to be around for a little bit if you'd like, if you have any questions. Have a wonderful day. 11 o'clock, we nailed it. So